Hello everybody, sorry for the late start. I just realized what time it was. I was essentially looking at a flight for later today and just got sidetracked doing all that, kind of looking at some different stuff, different planes, different locations, and completely lost track of time. But happy Thursday to you. Welcome to Microsoft Flight Simulator, Cessna 208B Grand Caravan, the minivan of the sky. We are going from Garm Airport to Osh. As far as I know, I think this is located in Tajikistan. Not to be confused where I've been in Kyrgyzstan. It's Tajikistan. So anyway, let's get in here, get things set up, get airborne, and we'll be on our way. We may have enough time to do a turnaround and go right back. We'll try to fit that in. I think we can do it. Morning, Chris. How are you? So, yeah, I was looking at things and I just happened to glance over at my laptop and I'm like, oh, I'm late. I feel bad. I don't like being late. Never call me late for dinner. Oh, we have story time as well. We do have story time today as well. Not as crazy or anything from yesterday. It'll be a funny story, I think. All right. Wow. Look at that view. Wow. Look at that. Okay. I'm doing good. Chris. This is going to be interesting. That's for sure. All right, let's make sure we have all of our lights on and everything before we take off. Cabin lights on necessarily. Lights are on. Need that on. Let's just get a little bit of panel lights on just to be safe. Nothing really too crazy. All right. I think we're all set. Oh, I didn't change the livery. Oh well, you know what? Screw it. Let's just go. All right. So let's get in the air here. Boy, it'll be a nice landing because we'll come in from between those mountains and land on the opposite end. So come on, Copilot. You got to be doing something here, dude. I can't be. You gotta start talking.
237 is type Cessna Caravan, 1 miles east of Uniform Tango Romeo Alpha 4,700 feet.
Man.
Request clearance to transition Charlie airspace. Kenmore 237, Dushanbe Center. Squawk 0326. Squawk 0326, Kenmore 237. Kenmore 237, radar contact 2 miles east of Uniform Tango Romeo Alpha 5,200 feet. Cleared through the Charlie airspace. Maintain on navigation. Cleared through the Charlie airspace Kenmore 237.
Well, at least it's going to be a scenic flight. No doubt about that. Good morning, Mick. There he is, the legend himself. How are you, kind sir? Yeah, Chris is up early. Yeah, that is true. That is an astute observation. That's almost like Amella's. Well, no. That is not like Amella saying he's hungry. Mixing both areas. He's in the Posh channel and the YouTube channel. Nice to see you both here. So yeah, I was looking at options for later today for the second flight, and just got a little sidetracked thinking about stuff for later, and looked at the time and I was like, oh, I'm already late. I can't have that. So yeah, so we're on our way. It says it's about a 44-minute flight, but I think regardless of how long it really is, we're going to land over the hill and through the mountains. Essentially, we're gonna land there, and we'll turn around and come back and have this nice. We're gonna come through here and land at the end over here. So we'll refile a flight plan and everything, and yeah, it should be a nice scenic trip for sure. So we'll get a couple hours in this way. You guys are doing Euro Truck Simulator tonight, not American. So looking forward to that. That should be a good one. That stream last night went on and on. Oh my goodness. You know, it reminded me of the ending of, it was like the second or third, maybe it was the third Lord of the Rings movie, where the screen would go blank and everybody's waiting because they're like, okay, finally the movie's come to an end, and everybody's kind of getting up out of their seats to start clapping and everything, and then another scene starts up and it's like, oh my god, come on dude, let's bring this to an end already, you're dragging it out. But no, it was an interesting game. But of the two that you featured from that developer, It Takes Two is certainly way more interesting. Yeah, no, that's fine, Nick. But it was like, just when you think, okay, finally the story's wrapped up and the credits roll kind of thing, and then it was like something else gets, it's like, oh my goodness. Okay, story time. Now that we're finally up in the air, we'll get things settled down here in the plane and try to level off here a bit, if we can. Now, I think we've gotten high enough that we can make our way around these mountains and whatnot. So, today's story. I've always referred to it in my mind as the Ballad of Johnny Ducati. So this is something that transpired when I was a contract security guard at a company called Read Right. Now, what they developed, if you guys remember, I was a contract security guard at a company called Seagate, which makes the hard disk drives. Read Right makes the actual heads for the hard disk drive systems. So that's their specialty, right? And so I'd been at this place for a little while and kind of got in good with some of the employees, and and a couple of the guys, I think a couple of them are from the maintenance group, and what else? What was it? Yeah, I think it was mostly the maintenance guys. They all, either the ones that worked there or, in different parts of the company, because they had buildings, their stuff was kind of spread out, right? So, anyway, so they all rode motorcycles. Now, some of them rode Harleys, some of them rode crotch rockets, but they loved to ride, right? Now, Johnny, I don't think his name, maybe his name wasn't really Johnny. It was a name that kind of stuck with him. Hello, Amela. Because, it was a funny way to tell this story. And what happens is this guy, who we call Johnny, inherited a significant amount of money when his parents died, I guess. Right? So he decides he wants to be one of the cool guys, and he wants to go motorcycle riding with the guy. They talked about it, and he had expressed interest, that sort of thing. Wanted to, he was thinking about it. But now that he's got this significant amount of money, to buy a motorcycle. Now, what he could have done is bought something reasonable, right? But instead decides to go out and buy a Decimo Quattro 888 motorcycle from Ducati. Now, this guy is probably 5 foot. Remember, he was shorter than me, so he was probably about 5'7", maybe. And so he goes and buys his bike. Now, he had no business buying a Ducati like that, because as I understood it, somebody who went with him to see him buy this motorcycle, he had a hard time, like if he came to a stop, you got to put a foot down, otherwise you lose your balance. He had a hard time making that happen, right? But he had the money, and he wanted that motorcycle more than anything, right? So he buys it. Well, the problem is, so he goes out riding with the guys, comes to a stop sign or stoplight, whatever, right? Has to come to a stop. Is already struggling as he comes to a stop, and goes to lead and dumps the bike. So now the right side, or whichever one he started on, now you've scratched up the paint and everything, and you've damaged your motorcycle, and a beautiful motorcycle at that. Now, I wouldn't ride a Ducati like that, because it's way more motorcycle than I think I would ever want to ride on. So he gets the bike back up, gets back on it somehow, takes off. Next stoplight, he decides to go the opposite. He figures, well, I'm going to lean the other way this time. Dumps it on that side. So now you've got damage on both sides of the bike. Now this guy had the audacity to go back to the dealership that sold him the bike and demand a refund because, in his words, from what I understand, they sold him too much motorcycle. Now, he had to take a loss on it because he'd already damaged it. But they gave him some money back, but they didn't give him the full value because he had already scraped up the body and everything. But it was just, whenever I think about that, I have to chuckle because, the money made him think that he could, it would be fine. He could buy this motorcycle and it would just be I think he got a bit, what's the word? He got a bit blindsided with the amount of money, and instead of saying, well, he could have probably bought a Harley Sportster. I think those were out back then. I don't remember. But he could have bought something reasonable and gone riding, wouldn't have dumped the bike and everything. But because he had all this money available to him, he just decided that was the appropriate thing would have been to blow it on this fancy Italian motorcycle that he had no business riding, But that's the Ballad of Johnny Ducati. I love telling that story because people are like, why? Why would you? And it wasn't, the bad part was, it wasn't like he was an experienced rider where he could feel comfortable riding a motorcycle like that even. That's the thing. Like, even if I was an experienced rider, I would probably say, yeah, that's not a bike that I should probably be messing around with. It's like it kind of reminds me of the soldiers who would come back from deployment and have a boatload of money saved up and go out and buy these really extravagant, or not extravagant, but they buy like the Hayabusas and, these fancy motorcycles with way more horsepower and everything than they had any right to ride on, and think because they had survived deployment that meant that they were invincible, and then they go out and kill themselves riding excessively fast because they didn't know what they were getting themselves into. And that's why, in the military they created a motorcycle riding program that you have to go to. So yeah, it was, but yeah, a lot of these guys were buying these crotch rockets and then just blasting down the road at 150 miles an hour, lose control, because they were coming up on a curve and they had to slow down, and they'd lose control of the bike and end up flying off the bike and into the trees. Like, there's this road from Fort Stewart to, I think it's I-95, that it's all tree lined. And even if they kind of cut those trees back, if you lose control, you're still going to go into a bunch of trees and die. You're going to die from that. It's not the speed that kills you, it's the sudden stop. So yeah, they now, like, if you have a motorcycle or whatever, you can't ride for the first month or so after deployment, because a lot of people would go out and just act crazy and and die in these ridiculous accidents that were completely preventable because people just couldn't. They had to get on that motorcycle, otherwise it was like they weren't living, but yeah. So there's story time. I was thinking about it this morning, and I don't think I've ever told that story, so there we are. The Ballad of Johnny Ducati. The moral of the story is don't go buying things that very likely you're not going to be able to handle very reasonably. Just, start small and work your way up to something like that.
10-237, contact OSH Center on 121.8. Good day.
Wow.
121.8 for 10-237.
Getting a little bit of turbulence here
OSH
from the wind
Center,
out of the mountains here.
15,200 feet.
10-237 OSH Center, altimeter 29.9 to continue as planned.
I tell you, that's something that I'm considering getting eventually as a PC, because every day, well, not every day, most every day, I see another new plane that they're discussing that's going to be added to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't be added to the Xbox version, but lately, the only thing that we've been getting, other than what we know we're getting for free on the 18th, in 2 weeks' time, we're not. There's no guarantees that we're getting any of the other new stuff, and it sucks because like I was looking today at what could I fly differently. Now it's good to fly stuff that I know works, reasonably well, but it sucks because I feel like I'm getting stuck in a rut. And there's all these planes coming out on the PC version. Now, somebody was complaining about talking about the 777s in Microsoft Flight Simulator that Captain Simhouse has put out. And people are like, it's garbage. Why would they allow it? Well, you have a star rating. Some people probably feel that it's something that they can work around. But it's, you have other people who just struggle with it. So they give it a 1 star because they refuse to try to work through the issues, I guess. to 13. So is that, Mela, is that just the tower itself is 900 to 1300 depending on the graphics cards and how much memory you have and storage you have, or is that like all inclusive? Because it seems to me stuff like that, it's a reasonably priced one, but then you have to have the monitors separate. Yeah, I've heard, well, see, that's the difficult part about the forums, because I read, people will say, well, this isn't working. Now, my question in my mind, and I don't write back to these people because I look and they say they're on the PC. Generally, it's the people on the PC. Very few people are not complaining, but posting problems in the Xbox for the Xbox system. But is it down to user error, or is there really a bug? That's my big question. Which which one is it? Now, of course, most people are never going to say, well, like if I get an aircraft, like, right, if I buy one, let's say we conclude this stream, and then I'm like, I could buy another new plane, right? What I do after I purchase it, and I look at the star ratings, and I look, okay, if a vast majority of the people say it's a 4 or 5 star plane, I feel fairly confident that it's working. Okay, it's just the tower. Monitor comes separately. I have 2 monitors, thankfully, or else it would have been extra. Oh, okay, nice. That's not bad. If you already have the monitor, I mean, why not? Hey, if you don't mind, Amela, send me the link to that in the Discord. Would you please just send it to me a direct message? I'm curious. I like to kind of look at that myself. So, of course, nobody wants to admit that it's a problem that's self-created because they don't really know what they're doing. Now, just like when I bought the L-19 Bird Dog, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to fly this plane? I go in there, I'm parked, and I have to get this thing started up, but there's no checklist. Like on this plane, if I was parked somewhere, I could start it up, and I go through the checklist, right? Not a big deal. But when I got the Bird Dog, I didn't know what to do, so I'm like, okay, I have to start looking around. I know I have to get the fuel going. I know I have to turn on the batteries and some other stuff. And so I kept looking around the cockpit to see where everything was. Find all the switches that I'm like, okay, I think I got to turn this way, or turn this on, and turn, And then lo and behold, I was able to get it started up. I'm like, okay, now I just have to remember. There's no particular order, of course. I just need to get these things turned on so that I can get the plane moving. Thank you, Milla. So there's that aspect of it. But also, I feel like there are more planes, and there's more stuff coming that is, a lot of people are looking, like, I like study level stuff that it's, you flip some switches or whatever, bam, the plane starts up, you're on your way, right? And then there's more in-depth stuff that is coming that is going to be, you got to follow, you got to do these procedures. And that's the great thing about simulators, is that you can be as in-depth as you want it to be, or you can make it as almost as simple as you want it to be. It's your choice, basically. So, yeah. I mean, I enjoy it because I don't have to wait for anybody to get on. If I want to fly, I just start it up and I just pick a plane that I feel confident that I can fly in, and I go flying. If it doesn't work, then I'm like, okay, I kind of have to steer clear of this plane, no pun intended, until I get a better, either the developers release a update to the plane. If they're not interested in doing the update, well, then I'm out the money. They got their money, right? But I'll never buy another product from them because they're not updating what they already have out there. So if you can't go back and fix what you've already released, why would I buy anything else from you? That's how I look at it. If you release a broken product and then you expect me to trust you again, nope. So yeah, I would like the more in-depth things. I think there's more capable. You can do a lot more in the PC version. You can Certainly it's easier to look around the cabin. You could zoom in even closer. You know, like I could kind of read these, but, you know, I like to be able to zoom in closer. Without a mouse, you can't really do that. You know, but sometimes it seems like that's not even a viable option. You know, I'm kind of just zigzagging through here, trying to make this flight scenic as much as possible. But I may be kind of, I don't want to set myself up for failure here. Wow, they still haven't fixed Dresden? Wow. Well, see, I'm glad I walked away from that game. I am so disappointed now with Dovetail games. I cannot. That is just so. I cannot quite understand how it got to that point. Quite honestly, I mean, unless it's just because I don't even know that you can say that it's the pandemic anymore, because you would think by now they would have gotten things a bit more sorted. Late last year, I could understand there being some issues because they weren't in the office and they were trying to do everything online, you know, in their Zoom meetings or whatever you want to call it. But at this point, if you cannot get your act together, yeah. Wow, even Bright Mainline keeps crashing. Well, now here's the big question, though. I think you told me that it crashed on Joe like once on the PS5, but I'm guessing it hasn't happened since that time on the PS5. So it's almost like the problem isn't, it's for whatever reason they're not working well with Microsoft and the Xbox architecture. That's what it seems like to me. Now I could be wrong, but if I were a betting man, that would be where I would put my money, is that Dovetail and Microsoft and the people who handle the architecture of the Xbox Series S and X even are not communicating very well. That's the only thing that I can think of is that it's happening, because it doesn't seem like it's a problem for the PS5 players. And I wonder if that's why they moved the game under the what do you call it, the Game Pass, to try to make amends or something. But well, I got an extra viewer in here. Welcome. Say hello. Don't be afraid. We don't bite. It's all good. For him twice, and yesterday at the ending of his West Cornwall stream, has crashed whilst he was just looking at trains to show off. Wow. I guess whoever it was, they looked for a minute and then they left. Oh well. Their loss. So now the problems are creeping over into the PS5 then. That's not, I mean, I'm just gonna put it like this, and I think I've said it before. That is not a good look for a brand ambassador when that happens. I mean, if I now this is me personally. If I were in his shoes I would have been in contact saying, I'm looking kind of foolish here. What are we gonna? I can't keep having this happen. You know, I'm trying to promote your product, but now your product is crashing on me. If this continues, then I'm going to have to leave as a brand ambassador. I cannot support your, you know, I can't support you if this is going to be a continuing thing. But again, that's on him. But I would have, after a certain point, I would have been like, yeah, no. But I know he has faith in them, and I respect that. That's his thing, right? I fully respect that. You know, he's hopeful that it's going to get fixed. But after a point, you have to say, well, I think I know, but that's just me. That's if I were in his shoes, that's what I would do. But I know part of it is he's young, and that's something he's not had to experience before or had to deal with. You know, he trusts them that they're working on the fixes. Yeah, I know, and that's the hard part. Like, you know, you can't. I think there's the bigger part of the bigger problem is you have the diehard fans, right? Thanks, Mila, appreciate that. You know, and some people will go so far as to say they're just fanboys, right? That's what they call them. Well, I don't know that that's necessarily true, because you have a lot of people from different backgrounds, men, women, whatever, that do like to play video games. I think that's pretty much been established. Wow, look at this. Wow, this is some really interesting scenery here. I wonder, this looks like a glacier right here, almost. Kind of like what we saw in Alaska. Wow, this is some really interesting scenery that we have here. So yes, it's once you start to realize that there's some problems that are being kind of glossed over. And I get it. A lot of, you know, when I was fuming about the way Bungie handles their business when they were publishing under Activision. Oh, you know, game development's tough. Not everything works the way you think it does. You got to go in and find the code, fix that. And then sometimes when you fix one thing, it breaks something else. It's not an easy business to be in, and yada, 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 right? Which is true. You know, I'm not a game developer. I don't know all the particulars of what they're trying to do. I'm sure it's not an easy thing. But, that being said, there's reasonable things that you can reasonably work around, and then there's just straight up stuff that you're just like, this is unacceptable. The Dresden thing in my mind was unacceptable. Even after they released a patch, it didn't really fix anything. It's unacceptable. Yeah, so like what Amela said, defending them, the people who stood by them and excused all the you know, all the stuff, are now saying, I can't defend you anymore. You've made it impossible for me to, because a game, you know, I've said this before too, but it bears worth repeating. A game like Train Sim World 2, it's a word of mouth game. It's not something that the general public is going to suddenly want. They're not going to be in line around the block, around a GameStop or whatever to buy it. Not like Call of Duty, or, you know, back when releases weren't digital, you went to to the store and you waited in line for your copy, right? And you were happy to do that because you're like, this is like one of the most eagerly anticipated games. So when you have ruined your customer base to the point that they cannot tell anybody in good faith to buy the game, you have destroyed your market. Because whether Dovetail realizes it or not, wants to admit it or not, but everybody who plays that game was a brand ambassador. It's just that some people got that in Dovetail reached out to them and said, for instance, hey Joe, we want you to be an ambassador for our bingo, Bella. You would think, after all the hype, after everybody, we want this route. Everybody was asking for this route. Well, not everybody, but generally, on average, most everybody was like, finally we're getting a route. UAOH. I have to fly a little bit longer to get there. I just want to make sure we get our, Yeah, and I think that's the part where now he's put himself in an awkward position, whether he sees it that way or not. He's between a rock and a hard place, Mick. And I think well, I've not watched a stream all the way through. Sometimes I'll pop in and say hi, but I don't know what happened, like the most recent one that Amel explained. I'm sure he would say it's fine, they're working on it, because that's what they're going to tell him. And so he, I guess in a way, would just be repeating the line from them. Was it runway 16?
Uniform Alpha Oscar Hotel traffic Kenmore 23745 miles southwest, 16,600 feet inbound to land runway 16.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, but I mean that's really his. It's part of a learning process, I think, when you're younger. Because you're trusting people to be telling you this truth, or this is what's happening. We're aware of it. We're working on it. And as long as they keep telling him that, I think he's going to be fine with it because he trusts what they're telling him. It's one of those hard lessons to learn, that once your trust has been broken enough times, you become way more guarded, and that's not always a good thing, but you start to realize that people aren't going to always tell you the truth. And in Dovetail's mind, they may very well be working on things. They understand that there's a lot of problems and they're trying to get it fixed. There may not be any easy answers for those fixes. Yep, there you go. Bingo again, Amela. Amela's just hitting the bingo today. Yeah, why rush it? Why, I could understand, like, when Bungie would release stuff, because Activision was telling them, you cannot delay it. You have to get this out there. You said it would be ready by this. Release it as is. It doesn't matter if it's broken or not. Deal with it. Dovetail Games develops and publishes their own stuff, so they're not beholden, as far as I know, to a publisher like Activision or Ubisoft or anything like that. They have the ability to say, we'd like to release it by this date, but that's why Sam always said we never promise a release date, because if things are broken and we have to fix it, that way you guys can't be mad. So everybody understood that. That's like smart business practice, right? What happened to that? Where did the sudden push come from? This has to be out now. Get it out there. But it's not working. Doesn't matter. Just get it out there. What happened? Where did that push come from? Yeah, you have to be honest. Like, I would point out things, like I would see, like when I got Cane Creek. It looked good, but there was this stuff that you had floating rocks and stuff like that. Doesn't seem like that's a very polished product. But part of it, I think, it's an age thing. Jason obviously is much older than Joe. So, yeah, and Jason's got more life experience. Joe is still learning those lessons. That's the difficult part. Once you get burned enough times, you'll learn the hard way. And sometimes, there's this saying that you're going to keep learning the same lesson over and over until you finally learn it. The universe is going to keep putting you in those situations until you finally, that light bulb goes off in your head, you go like, I get it now. I think that's Joe's in that portion of his life where the light bulb hasn't gone off quite yet. Jason he doesn't care if people's feelings get hurt or whatever. He's just going to say this project isn't worth it, and here's why. I would wait, or I would not buy this route for right now. Don't get wrapped up in the hype, because that's what happens a lot of times. We get wrapped up in the hype, and then we're disappointed when the reality doesn't match the hype. So we're often left feeling like, wow, we kind of got played. And, there's a lot of people, I think, now that feel, I think in his own way, I don't know what conversations he has with Dovetail Games, Chris. I think he's trying to express to them what's going on, and certainly Natalie and Joe, especially Natalie, has been in his streams and sees what's going on. So even if he's not telling them, she should, as the liaison, the community liaison, should be communicating back to Sam and Adam and Matt what she's seeing, like in Joe's stream, for instance. So she may be well ahead of that. I'm guessing that's why she's been in the streams, is to kind of gauge what's happening, but also, I think, gauge what what's being said in the chat about what people are seeing. and the frustrations. I think. Now, I could be wrong. I'm kind of guessing here, but I like to think that, that's what Natalie was brought on board to do. But, you could tell, like, when I was frustrated with the whole Dresden thing, I said, look, you guys have an opportunity here to fix this relationship. It's become a broken relationship. If a company, and of course people will say, well, they don't owe you anything. Well, then I don't feel obligated to spend my money there, quite honestly. Why would I do that? Why would I give them my money? There's no point. So, and some people get mad about that. Well, they don't. Well, I gave them my money. I think I'm owed something reasonable. I'm not trying to be unreasonable about the expectations. If I was jumping up and down like a lunatic and saying that they, posting death threats to them or something, then that's unreasonable. I don't think that solves anything either. But at the same time, if I have reasonable expectations of the company, I would hope that they would be decent enough to honor those expectations. Within reason. Now, if they can't honor it, just be honest. Like, there's just no way that we can figure out how to solve this problem without. If we've tried, we've simulated, we've changed things, but we didn't release the update because when we did this, it broke something else, and so we're trying to get a handle on the software. It's not an easy thing, Yeah. But I was one of those people. I was like, this is an amazing product, and Amella's right. After after Cathcart I don't know why I thought Gatwick. After Cathcart came out, things went downhill. For whatever reason. I don't know why. I don't know what transpired that they kind of, lost it after that. It was like their quality just went right down the tubes. Don't know why. And rush hour sounded good. More passenger traffic, all the things that everybody's been wanting. And it was hype. It was all hype. And I tell you what, if I was one of the people that had been waiting for ages for Bright Mainline and it released in the state that it's in now, that would have been it. I would have been like, yep, you got my money. I played it long enough that I can't ask for a refund now. So enjoy my money, but you're not getting another dime from me. I'm done with you. And that's it's like, I've always felt like you're filing for divorce. It's a toxic relationship that doesn't lead to anything positive. It gets, and it sucks because it was fun. I really enjoyed it, but once things started to go downhill, it was like, wow. What has happened? I like to know who got in their back pockets and said, you're going to start doing this. Who's pulling those strings now? That is getting them to release this stuff in such a state. That's bingo, Mella. Bella's man. Mella, go buy a lottery ticket. You're hitting the nail on the head today. You're so lucky right now. Just go buy a lottery ticket. You might as well. Yeah, you're right. Once the trust is broken, you know. Yeah, yeah, I know. I get where you're coming from, Chris. And that's, you know, I don't know. But again, he's young. He's learning the ways of the world. That it's, you know, I think he kind of gets it, but that, like I said, I don't. How does he? I think one of the toughest lessons is how do you come to terms with everything, and is there, you know, I think it's a you know, lifelong lesson that you learn. You know, I mean, I there was somebody that I got along well with in my group on Division 2, and found out recently that that person betrayed my trust. You know, I told that person some things in confidence, and for whatever reason, they decided that they needed to share those things with other people who had no business knowing those things. And so now that trust has been broken. And I have no... I'm not going to put the effort... I mean, I don't need to put any effort in because I didn't do anything wrong. Okay. This person hasn't exactly gone out of their way to repair things. Yeah, that's true also. I agree. So yeah, and Bella's right. Once the trust is broken, people are gonna, you know, it used to be that, okay, you know, maybe you weren't being dishonest on purpose. Maybe you just gave me what information you thought to be true at the time. I'm willing to, you know, let that go. But, you know, you're on notice now. If this continues to be a pattern of behavior, there's going to be a problem. So yeah, I think people are less forgiving now, and that's just part of the way the world is now, I think, unfortunately. You know, yeah, well, I mean, I think he's trying to remain positive in a less than positive world. I think that's what he is. I think he's an overly optimistic person, and sometimes that can bite you in the butt. And again, that's a life lesson that I think people don't quite understand. You know. So I don't know. It's very difficult. You know, I don't wish him any ill will. He is who he is, and I respect that. But yeah, I think it's just it's a learning process for him, and he's going to have to go through it. That's the only way he's going to grow as a person. And there's nothing that any of us can do to push that along any quicker. You know, there's just those times in life that you know something isn't right, You can feel it in your bones, and you can point things out to somebody all those times, but if they're not hearing it, there's not much more you can do. You just have to let it be what it is. You know. And he's just going to have to figure it out for himself. I think he's a great kid. You know, I think he's got a bright future, and I know Amanda. There's one thing I know: Amanda loves him to death, and she sees a lot of good in him, and I think she's always going to push him to better himself and everything. So he's lucky he has somebody who cares about him like that. Not many people do. And you know, hopefully it's going to translate for him into something bigger in life. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and get some flap action. So yeah, hopefully one day he figures it out. I think he will eventually. Tajikistan, Amila, I believe, is where... I know that's where we took off from. I'm not sure where Osh itself is.
Uniform Alpha Oscar Hotel traffic Kenworth 237 is on downwind runway 16.
Wow. I was just trying to get the talk, say where we were. Next thing I know, this plane's like all over the place. Gotta lose a lot more altitude too. Now I think this part of the world, I could be wrong. I'd have to look at an old map, but I feel like this was a part of the old Soviet Union. Because once the Soviet Union broke up, that's when all of a sudden you had all these different names pop up. On maps. So I think this might have been part of the old Soviet Union. I know certainly Kyrgyzstan was, because the writing on the airport was in Cyrillic, the Russian language. Because there was a lot of areas that they had control over that I think, unless you studied political history or history in general, but political stuff as well, you probably didn't know that this country existed, or this area existed. I sure did. So that's why I think it is one of those. It's like it just, it's like these people didn't exist under the Soviet regime. Yeah, well, there's a lot of them like that that you just never heard about until either something happens that causes them to be mentioned in the media, but it's usually quickly dropped for something else, eventually. So yeah, I don't know. It's a very crazy thing. It also kind of makes me think, how quickly we just kind of gloss over the dehumanizing of people, that we kind of just forgive it for whatever reasons, out of political expediency. I don't know, but it's rather sad because it's happening way more than we think it is. And I would imagine even today the people of Tajikistan probably don't have a voice very much. It's kind of weird. Well, it's not weird, it's sad. So this should be a bit uphill, I think, the landing strip. Yep, there we are. Right there. Boy, we are losing altitude a little bit too fast here. Trying to stay lined up, but boy, it is difficult because it easily disappears below. Well, there we go. That wasn't nearly that bad. Whew. Okay. Well, welcome to Osh. The local time is the sun's still up. Seems like late afternoon. Probably about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, maybe. Well, oh, that's right. We're going uphill here. That's why it's suddenly... There's a slight incline here, I can tell. Oh, thank you, Mella. Appreciate that. I wasn't sure. It was a little iffy there coming in because I thought for sure we were losing altitude a little too quickly. Alright, so we're going to say we're clear of the runway.
Uniform Alpha Oscar Hotel traffic Kenmore 237 is clear of the runway.
Alright, let's just go ahead and shut it down here. Okay. So that was about an hour. Alright, let's go ahead and file for our return flight. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go use the restroom real quick. And we'll do our return trip. All right, I'm back. So let's go from... See, now the sun's... It seems like the sun's gone down already. Oops. O-H. So we want to go from this runway. T-R-A. And we're going to land here at 27. All right. So let's get in here. A320 back on the stream anytime soon. Yeah, I can. Matter of fact, so I've got my return once I come back on the 10th. I do have a flight planned in the CJ. That's we're doing Hong Kong to Taipei.
Oscar Hotel traffic Kenmore 237 taking off runway 34 departure.
Now we could do that in the A320. It doesn't have to be in the CJ4. Ooh boy, this is some yucky weather. We don't want that. We want to be able to see the nice mountains and everything. There we go. All right. So yeah, slight downhill, so it should be easier to take off this way. So yeah, certainly we could do that flight in the A320 on the 10th. You know, I'm not beholden to one aircraft over the other. So to speak. The old crusty salute to the airport behind us. There we go. Oop. All right, come on there. Oh my God. Crap. I tell you, why isn't my co-pilot talking, changing the frequencies and talking to somebody? This is starting to upset me. Good Lord, get on it.
Tower Kenmore 23723 miles southeast, 4,000 feet to land.
No. God. No. That's not what I wanted.
Make right base runway 22 Kenmore 237. Tower Kenmore 237 cancel landing intention.
Kenmore 237, your cancellation is received.
OSH approach Kenmore 237 is type Cessna Caravan 3 miles northwest of Uniform Alpha Oscar Hotel 4,800 feet. Request clearance to transition Charlie airspace. Kenmore 237 OSH approach. Squawk 0242. Squawk 0242 Kenmore 237.
I don't know, every time it seems lately.
Radar contact 4 miles northwest of Uniform Alpha Oscar Hotel 5,300 feet. Cleared through the Charlie airspace. Maintain on navigation.
Man.
Cleared through the Charlie airspace Kenmore 237.
I don't know why my co-pilot is not talking on the radio. He needs to be doing that. Handle the transition after we take off. I shouldn't have to be trying to do both at the same time. Come on, dude. Help me out here. Anyway. So yes. On the 10th, we could do that in the A320. That shouldn't be a problem. There's plenty of runway for both. Or for at Hong Kong and Taipei. So that shouldn't be an issue. I could do that. That's not a problem. Because that's going to be about an hour or so long flight, I think. The 11th, I got 2 flights planned for Veterans Day. So it should be like kind of one right after the other. We'll land and then we'll file. I have to try. Yeah, we can do. I thought I did one. I thought I've done one in the A320, but yeah, we can bring it back. I think things have kind of settled down a bit. It's what I've noticed. Again, this is one of the weird things about Flight Sim in the forums. There's different versions of the A320, more so on the computer version of the sim, not so much on the Xbox version. So there seems to be way more problems with the stuff on the PC side. That's what I gather. I don't know if that's necessarily true or not, but my understanding is that's part of the problem. But I don't really know. So yeah, that's not a huge problem for me to bring that back. I feel confident. It's not a very long flight, so I don't think that it's going to be an issue for me to fly from Hong Kong to Taipei. So yeah, that should be no big deal at all. Somebody keeps dropping in. Say hello. Don't be afraid. Come on. Just say hello. Leave a like. Doesn't cost you anything. Promise. We don't bite. Just say hello. It's okay. It's all good here. Anyways, so yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it should be fine, Nick. I can do that on the 10th. That's not a big deal. But the second flight on the 11th, which I'm trying to leave as a surprise. Well, both flights I'm trying to leave as a surprise for Veterans Day. I have to try, once we wrap this up, I got to try something for the second part of the flight for the 11th. Oh, now I got 5 viewers. Again, say hello. It's all good. Leave a thumbs up, please and thank you. If you like what you see, I know, I get that the Grand Caravan is not the most exciting plane in the history of planes, but we're flying. So if you're enjoying it, and you're hanging out, so I'm guessing you are enjoying it, say hello, introduce yourself. It's all good. Anyway, yeah, so I just got to check out something. I got to figure out something for that second portion of the flight. I have the one planned for later today at noon. We'll be in the King Air 350i. We'll be going from Syracuse to a county airport outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That'll be about a 2-hour flight, I think, give or take. So that will correspond well for you, Mick, because by the time I wrap that up, then you and Chris and Pulse will be getting ready to go Euro Truck simulating. So yeah, it'll all work out just fine. So see, try to be friendly, and people, it scares them off, I guess. I don't know, whatever. Can't even be bothered to say hello or leave a thumbs up. I don't know. I mean, my breath doesn't stink, I don't think, although I've had coffee, but...
Contact OSH Center on 121.8. Good day. Going to 121.8 Kenmore 237. OSH Center Kenmore 237, 12,600 feet.
Well, at least we got a nice sunset. So that, you know what that means? Depending on how long it takes for us to get there, we might have a nice nighttime landing. Now, I don't think that the Garm airport is probably lit. So this is going to be an interesting situation developing here. Kind of like when Abella says he's hungry. It's a developing story. But at least we got a nice sunset. Can't ask for more than that. So anyway, I don't know. I think I'm friendly. Just try to invite people to come in and say hello. I mean, I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to ask. But what do I know? So yeah. So I have a few things I gotta check today after we wrap this up between now and noon. And then so that's at least Wednesday and Thursday. I still got to plan Fridays and then Spitfire Saturday. I gotta look back at my notes to remember where we landed at last time, and we'll go from there and find another. Now, this is the thing that kind of throws me for a loop, right? When I'm looking at airports in the UK, right? Especially when I'm looking at stuff for Spitfire Saturdays, the problem is that there's like Coningsby didn't say RAF Coningsby. It just says Coningsby, right? And then the ones that have AB after them, from my understanding, are U.S. Air Force air bases. So, I don't know if you could find out for me, Mick, if you could be so kind. If you could tell me, or if you could kind of direct me to a list of RAF bases in the UK, so that I could kind of like plan my flight sim stuff around that, especially for Spitfire Saturday. Because I tried looking it up, but all I got was like the overall. It doesn't have it broken down necessarily like the Royal Air Force main website, but it only shows like the squadron insignia, I guess. So, but if there's some other way, maybe a list that you know of, if there's a link that you could message me in Discord with, I'd greatly appreciate that. Because I like to be able to just, when we take off in the Spitfire, we take off from an RAF base and go to an RAF base. So I don't know all the names, or if I have to sort it out on using the RAF website itself, then I'll do that. I just, yeah, but that would help me plan out my Spitfire Saturday flights. Oh, well, that's right. We went to Duxford. Was the last place we flew to. That's right. And we landed on the grass. Yes, I remember now. Oh, yes, I remember when. Never mind. So Duxford was the last one that we flew into. But that's not really it's not an active, that's a museum. That's part of the Imperial War Museum, I think. That's why we landed there. Well, we can take off from Duxford. I'll find another Royal Army or Royal Air Force base to fly to from Duxford for the 12th. Wait, no, the 13th. Because the 11th is a Thursday, I think. Yep. 1 week from today, actually. So the 13th of November for Spitfire Saturday. So, anyways. I need to start turning a little bit more towards the... There we go. Now we got a much better view. Much more gooder. Anyways. Anywho, as a matter of fact, let me change that in my notes. Really, I gotta get another notebook. So I'm just filling stuff up here, and I need to get better on my notes. For the flights. Now, I did see that somebody put out a logbook for Flight Simulator. Oh, thank you, Mick. I appreciate that. Like for logbooks that, when you're making your flight plans here in the game, you can put down pertinent information and all that. I'd like to get me one of those at some point. But just a cheap notebook does just fine. I mean, they're only like $1 at Walmart. Yeah. So it just makes it easier for me to keep track of things. But I had a bunch of notebooks from when I was in school, but now I'm just kind of using them up for notes for flying. But anyway. Yeah. And the interesting thing is, when I compare, and I know it's probably not a fair comparison, but when I think about the armed forces there in the UK, now I get that it's in service to the Queen, right? That's basically who they're serving. Or in some cases, it's to the monarchy, I guess. It's whether it's to the King or Queen of England, that's who where their loyalty lies, I guess, in a way. Now, I don't say loyalty, but anyway, I don't know. It seems that like here in America, with a few exceptions, you don't really know. Like when I was in 3rd Infantry Division, right? It's one of the most historic units in the Army. We had Audie Murphy, 2-time recipient of the Medal of Honor. You know, the Battle of the Marne in World War I, and you know, there's a lot of history there, but it wasn't. It's not like people in America know and understand that history. Whereas, you know, if you have a Royal Air Force base, especially the ones where Spitfires flew out of, most people of a certain age know and respect that. Like, there's that connection to them that they feel that is part of their history. Whether they, even though they may have not served there, it's part of a national history, I guess. And it's something that is not to be disrespected. You know. Whereas here in America, if people felt that, or people feel that the name of a base or whatever, they don't like the person that it's named after for various reasons, and you know, they'll do everything they can to change the name. You know, that there's not that sense of respect. And I guess maybe for the right reasons. I don't know. It's just I always felt like the military forces in the UK. There's a lot more respect for those forces. There's a lot more respect for the people who serve in them, I think. Whereas here in America, that level of respect is no longer existent. Well, this is going to get really interesting here shortly with the sun going down. Ooh, boy. Flying at night in the mountains. Ooh, doggy. Oh, Lord, this is going to be fun. Never let it be said that we don't like a challenge, because it's about to get challenging. As the sun goes below the horizon and darkness is creeping up behind us. Oh boy. Buckle up, folks, it's going to be interesting. I think we'll be okay. We'll be fine. If nothing else we can try to navigate through this. I think we'll be okay. Yeah, and it's not the same here. Like, I know Veterans Day is a week away. And there's some people who will say, you need to thank a veteran every day. I don't want to be thanked every day for my service. I really don't. Because it loses its meaning after a while. Right? It becomes it's too much. I don't need that appreciation every day. But there's some people who feel like that's the appropriate thing to do. Right? I'm not one of them, because I just don't see it's like you're overdoing it. You know, it loses its meaning. I don't mind being thanked on Veterans Day. It's not, like, I don't go seeking it. I've never liked being in a Veterans Day parade, to be honest. If somebody asked me to partake in one, if I'm like, yeah, I can do it, then I would. But otherwise, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be bothered. Because to me, like, we did one, I think, yeah, it was the same year we got back from Afghanistan. In 2013, we did Veterans Day downtown Savannah. And we're marching. Now, everybody was all like rigid and stiff. Ah, interesting then. That's interesting. I have to discuss that more with you at some point. I'm very interested in hearing how that is. But anyway, so we went downtown and we're marching in formation, and everybody was like waving, and everybody was like too scared to do anything. Like, oh, because part of it is because of the Institute of Third Infantry Division. That's part of the problem. But afterwards, everybody's like, well, we should have been a little bit more interactive with the crowd, waving back, smiling, and, running over and giving some kid a high five or whatever. But people get, oh, no, you can't. What's wrong with that? They're the public. We should be interacting with them in a positive way. But yeah, I don't like it because I never cared for the fact that I'm walking by people and they're sitting there clapping at me. It just feels weird. It feels kind of, and I know it's a tradition in a way because that's how it was at the end of when World War II was over. There was all these parades and everything. It was the same way for a lot of returning units after the Gulf War. Although I didn't have that experience, really. Marching down Fifth Avenue and everything. I don't know, I never really cared for it. It just felt kind of fake, But, I don't mind that if a restaurant says we can give you a free meal as a veteran, it's not going to be, quite honestly, it is not going to be like a steak dinner, for instance. It's not. It's going to be, you can get burgers and fries and a drink. That's about it. Which is fine. I'm not saying it has to be a steak and lobster dinner or something like that, right? It is what it is, and I appreciate that. Does it mean that I have, now I can go in there and just buy the meal. If I really want a steak and lobster dinner, I can find a place and spend the money, if I want. But, there's plenty of restaurants that will say, oh, you can get a free meal here. And everybody gets excited, oh, free meal, Veterans Day. And then when you find out what you're just kind of like, they give you this small menu, and you're like, that's it? Wow. You're just, that's all that they can offer, really? But, if you're going to be that choosy, then you probably shouldn't have gone to begin with, Heck, if somebody'd offered me a chicken a la king MRE, here's your veteran, I'll eat it. I'll hot sauce the hell out of that MRE. I'll crush the crackers and pour it in there too, and I'll make a meal out of it, and I'll be happy. I'll use a couple of little bottles of that Tabasco sauce in there. You're darn right, but I don't know. It's just one of those weird situations to be in because people feel this sense of, I don't want to say guilt. I don't know. Okay, cheers, Amela. Thanks for coming in and hanging out for a while. Talk to you later. Hopefully you'll be in Mick's stream tonight. Look forward to seeing you there. Have a good day. So yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things. And when I was at the community college and they'd have Veterans Day ceremony and they'd talk about how the veterans created the education system in a way, because not created the education system. A lot of schools existed more so when veterans returned from World War II, they went to school on the GI Bill, and SUNY Broome, the community college I graduated from, is one of those schools, and they know that history, right? But they only talk about it on one day a year. They're not reaching out and saying to talk about that in greater detail, to embrace that heritage, I guess, in a way. They don't, it's almost like they're not embarrassed about it on the 11th, but on the 12th it's business as usual. So I don't know. It's a very weird sort of situation. I don't know. I've become kind of not ambivalent. I've become kind of cynical about Veterans Day, I guess, maybe. I don't know. Boy, it's hard to pick out. See, like, there's that color, but it's almost like, okay, those mountains are much higher, it seems like, because the sun is still peeking through, maybe. I don't know. I kind of feel like this is where we flew through earlier. So I'm trying to figure out where I need to turn to avoid some mountains. We're still climbing a little bit, but not as much as we were before. But I just want to make sure we've got altitude to work with. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to try to make it a positive thing when we go flying on the 11th. I think it'll be fun. Be something different. But yeah, I don't think I'm even going to go out and do anything that day. I'm just going to sit here at my apartment and we'll go flying for a little bit, and that'll be it. I think, I don't know if some of the channels do it, but they would usually have, I think, like AMC, they might have like a military film festival on AMC that day. The usual classics, probably like Patton, The Dirty Dozen, some of the older ones, not more modern, like Black Hawk Down or American Sniper, or it'll probably be like Patton, The Dirty Dozen, Saving Private Ryan, Kelly's Heroes, Guns of Navarone, or something like that. Maybe a couple John Wayne movies or something, like Sands of Iwo Jima, Green Berets. That'd probably be about it. If they do it. I don't know if they still do it or not. If they ever did, but okay. I feel like we're gonna have to fly through this valley, kind of snake our way through here, because I can kind of still see clearly enough that I kind of know what's going on here. Even though I've got all the headlights on, I can't see much of anything once that sun is completely below the horizon. Right now, you kind of got that nice golden hour action going on right there. But, yeah. I think I'm just going to kind of keep through this valley here. And once we put this on the ground, we'll wrap the stream up for at that point, and then we'll be back probably in about 3 hours or so. Noon my time, 4 p.m. UK time. We'll be flying again, in the 350i, Syracuse to I can't remember the name of it. I should have written it down, but we're going basically to Pittsburgh, but we're going to a county airport outside of Pittsburgh. We're not going actually into Pittsburgh International, so should be good. So do join us for that in a few hours. And then after today, you won't see me until the 10th. So 6 days from now. So if you miss my voice, there's plenty of videos for you to watch. You could always listen to my SoundCloud again, listen to some music. Play some music on there when I took the radio production class a few years ago. You can always enjoy that. So be a nice little break, I guess, in a way. You know, there's the old story, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Well, there you go. I'll be absent, and hopefully your heart for me grows fonder, and we'll have a nice reunion on the 10th. Nice flight. I may have to, what I may do is kind of advance the time so we have a nice morning flight out of Hong Kong. And I don't mind doing that because I know like nighttime flights can be it's hard to see anything. You know, like when we flew out towards Osh, we had this nice detail in the mountains. We still kind of do. It isn't completely gone yet, but it's much more difficult to enjoy the scenery when you start to lose light. So I didn't expect it to be at this point, but that's okay. It is what it is. We're just going to enjoy this and make the best of it. Kind of feel like I should zip over this way just a touch, and I think what we'll do, if I understand the terrain correctly. Speaking of terrain, okay, so here's, you know what? Quick story time. I just thought of one. Imagine that. So, in the Army, when you start to get ready to get promoted, you have to go to a leadership school, right? It's called Primary Leadership Development Course. And there's lots of different stories about PLDC. That's what it's known as, PLDC. That, you know, I've heard over the years. A lot of people suggested, you know, everybody's got their, you know, PLDC stories, whether it was something they experienced themselves or somebody they knew experienced it, right? Now, I did mine when I was in the Army National Guard, so it was a 2-week course in Utah. And you have classroom, it's all, for the most part, you have classroom exercises about the first week. Not classroom exercises, but you go in and you talk about different theories of leadership. What does it mean to be a leader? What are your responsibilities and all this other stuff? And then eventually you're going to go into a field environment. And it's like the culminating event. You go out to the field, and each member of your squad is going to be in charge of a different event. So not events, like mine was basically there's an enemy encampment and we have to take that encampment, right? We have to assault it. And you have to come up with a plan. You have to put out a warning order and then an op order, and you have to communicate effectively to the rest of the team what your intentions are. What are you going to do? Who's going to do what? You have to talk about, site security and all these other things. It's, but one of the first things that you do, now up until a certain point, everything is team centered, right? You work together as a team. The only time that you don't is on the land nav course. And what happens is they give you 4 points, right? They give you a sheet of paper. These are your 4 points, and they give you a map of the area, and you have to plot. There's a starting point. The starting point doesn't count, but you have 4 points that you have to go find. The minimum to pass it is, I think, you have to find 2 of the 4. And when you get to the point, they would have a tag, and you write down that number. And that determines whether or not you found your points. And it can be very nerve-wracking because a lot of people, land navigation, especially with a map and compass, it's one of those skills that most soldiers nowadays probably don't know very well because we become reliant on GPS. Now, if all those systems went down, how are you going to navigate from point A to point B and on to point C?
Frequency change approved.
Okay.
Squawk 7000. Frequency change approved. Kenworth 237.
Okay, are we supposed to be talking to somebody else or no?
Dushanbe Center, Kenworth 237 is type Cessna Caravan Tree 2 miles south of Uniform Alpha Tree 0, flight level 210. Request flight following.
Kenworth 237, Dushanbe Center. Squawk 001
Squawk 001 Tree, Kenworth 237.
Kenworth 237, radar contact tree 2 miles south of Uniform Alpha Tree 0, flight level 210.
Roger, Kenworth 237.
Okay. I wasn't sure. That just ended abruptly, and I'm like, wait, what? So anyway, the day that I went out on the course, we all go out, and wow, I just suddenly turned, and I didn't even mean to. Okay. I feel like this is a good option here. If I can get back in that valley, that'll set up the landing. Matter of fact, I need to call ahead. We're going to have to start dropping some altitude here pretty soon. There it is. And we took off from runway 09, but we don't want to land there. So we're going to runway 27. There we go.
Uniform Tango Romeo Alpha traffic, Kenworth 237 Tree 8 miles northeast, flight level 210, inbound to land runway 27.
So I get my points, right? And head off. And at first you're nervous because you're like, this is the one thing that you don't want to screw up, because if you fail the first time, they give you one more chance, and if you fail the second time, you're done. You're out. There's no third chance. And basically, if you fail one time, what they do is they kind of talk to you about, okay, what happened? Let's review all the basics, go over everything. They kind of work with you. They want to make sure you understand all the particulars of what you're supposed to be doing, and then they send you out a second time. So the first one, I'm doing all this extra stuff, but then I realize I'm looking at the map that they gave me, and I'm looking around. I can say, okay, this mountain's over here, and this, I know where I am. I need to basically go this direction, and I should be near my point. And what you do, you can do like you could shoot an azimuth. So if you have two known points, you have a mountain over here, and you have a mountain, two different directions, and then you shoot you calculate the back azimuth, and you get an intersection, you know where you are, right? But if you can dead reckon, it makes it a little bit easier to deal with, and you don't have to worry about a whole heck of a lot. A lot of people don't know how to do that, and they get confused. They're not terrain associating, basically. And I nailed all 4 of my points. I think I was like the second person who arrived back at the start point, turned my stuff in, and just sat there and waited the rest of the day until the rest of my squad was done. Not that I was in charge at that point, but there wasn't like we'll run you back to the barracks or anything. It was, you just sit down and wait. So you just sit there and chill. And I was happy I found all 4 of my points. I mean, I was nervous as I got ready to turn my paperwork in. I'm like, I hope I got all this right. And he looked down the list. He said, 4 out of 4, done. But then there was somebody in my squad that did make it. He failed the first time, and I tried to be positive with him and say, look, just relax. You got this. You'll get it on the second try. Don't worry about it. And he failed the second time, and he was done. And he came to me. He's like, I feel like I let you down. I was like, you didn't let me down. I said, it happens. It's one of those things that people don't practice enough, and you're a bit out of practice. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. This is one of those things that now something that you're going to have to work on, and you come back and you'll be fine. But good old dead reckoning. I can still dead reckon in most places, even if I haven't been somewhere. If I'm like, okay, I know where I'm at. Basically, from here I need to go this way to get over here. But I don't like relying on GPS if I can help it. If I'm walking somewhere, if I get kind of an idea where I'm going ahead of time. Yeah. But there you go. Another story time. First it was Johnny Ducati, the Ballad of Johnny Ducati. Now we wrap it up with a story about navigating. Because, in a way, we navigate in flight sim, too. We sometimes we overly rely on the systems in place to get us from point A to point B. But other times you kind of have to trust your instincts. Like, look how much detail we've lost here in the mountains now. There's still a little bit there. We can see this waterway below us. But if there's things that we couldn't see, it would be much more difficult. We would have to rely on this. But what happens if we lost that? What will we do? It's not like we have a night vision device installed in the aircraft either. We don't have a forward-looking infrared system. Which would be nice, but that's not very reasonable. You know, that's usually for military planes, not civilian. And maybe it'll be a time where that sort of technology will come to civilian aircraft. Who knows? You know, just like GPS was developed by the military. And now everybody relies on it. It's interesting that a military technology is now used by people worldwide. Well, for the most part worldwide, but most people have a cell phone that has a GPS system in it. That's the crazy part. I always chuckle when I think about the fact that a technology that was developed by the military is used by a lot of people who don't like the military. And they don't even realize that it was a military technology. The interstate system here in America was not built for what it's used for today. Most people don't know that. It was built to basically to be able to move large pieces of military equipment from one part of the country to the other. It wasn't never meant to be I don't think it was ever meant to be the way it is now. And I think President Eisenhower was the one that started the highway system that people enjoy today. But it was all, it wasn't, it was meant for military use, not for what it's used for today. I guess it could still be used for military use, but I think people would freak out if the highway systems were shut down for the movement of military equipment. You know? But that just makes me chuckle because there's a lot of people who talk down about the military but don't realize a lot of the things that they enjoy is because of that, because of the military. I feel like I'm losing enough altitude, but I need to like slow it down now because there's still a lot of lower parts here that I cannot see, and I feel like I'm getting a little too low for my own good. And I can't, if for whatever reason this is not churning out so that I can get back to, I need to slow the descent a little bit now. There we go. I think that's, if I could stay over this waterway here, I think I'll be fine until we get to our pattern entry point. If we just slowly lose a bit of altitude, I think we'll be okay. I just don't want to go zipping down to 6,000 feet or whatever, and then we're struggling or we accidentally hit a mountain. So this should be an interesting landing. Let's see if I can find the there's that, so that's there. There we go. Ta-da! Look at that. We got some lights on now. lights, panel lights. There we go. Now we can see in the cockpit. Yay, we got lights. Alrighty. Well, 2 hours. Whew. Where'd the time go? Where did it disappear to? Nobody knows. The troubles we've seen. Mick, I don't see those links you sent me, buddy. Oh, there it is. Now I see it. Never mind. I found it. Thank you. Found it. Hee hee.
Tango Romeo Alpha traffic Kenmore 23719 miles east 12,600.
Now this is going to be the difficult part, folks. Because if there's no lights on the landing strip, this is going to be a really very interesting situation developing here. Breaking news. We are landing in Tajikistan in the dark. This is a developing story. More at 11. Just put a selection on there. Oh, yeah, I found it, Nick, because I thought it was going to be a DM, but you put it on the... It's fine. It's all good. I appreciate it. I found it. I'll have a look once we're done here. Are we there yet? Chris, are we there yet? Chris has gone silent even. Must have gone back to sleep. In all the preparation for this evening's stream on Euro Truck Simulator. Looking forward to that this evening. Gonna get some laundry done tonight for sure, so I can kind of relax tomorrow morning. There's the stuff for pattern entry. If we trust that, I think we'll be okay. Alright, let's go ahead and get some flaps down so we can get the plane settled for pattern entry. As we continue to lose some altitude here. also have a bit of altitude to drop off here. Okay, now the question is going to be, does that pattern entry go through those mountains? That's going to be the difficult part here, I think. So we're going to have to kind of visualize here just a bit and see if we can't make this happen. I know we can make it happen. It's not if. We're going to make it happen. It's like when I flew underneath the Eiffel Tower the first time. We made it happen. And the Spitfire Bridge shenanigans. We made it happen. Took a few tries, but we made it happen. We're going to make this happen too. May not be the most beautiful landing in the history of landings. But we're gonna make it exciting. That's for darn sure. Edge of your seat stuff right here, folks. Don't get it anywhere else. Where else do you get story time and crazy stuff like this? Flying through a valley, landing in Tajikistan in the dark. What more can you ask for? Whatever it might be, the answer might have to be no, unfortunately. But at least we make it entertaining. I feel like I'm a little too close to that side of the mountain there. I think we don't need to lose too much more altitude. I want to be like, have a little bit of room to play with if needed. Trim out. Come on. Work with me. Trim out. There you go. There you go. I think we've got on all the lights we can put on here. I wish I could see. We know the flaps are down. We've got our indicator, and we can look. Flaps are down. Know that one is for sure. Assuming the other one is as well. Come on. Trim out. Yeah, see, it looks like quite honestly, goes through a mountainside right there. Yep, it does. Okay, so here's what we're going to do, folks. We're just going to go straight in right here. We can do this. We got this. We have the technology. We're just going to skip. We're not going to try to fly through that mountain. I think that would be a bit unwise to do. So we're just going to come in right here. If we had the light, I think we would be okay, but I think this is the best course of action right here, right now.
Uniform Tango Romeo Alpha traffic Kenmore 237 is on final runway 27 to land.
Question is going to be, yeah, we got off that throttle a little too early.
Stall. 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 Stall.
Boy, did we get off that throttle way too early.
Stall.
Alright, I see the runway there on the display. Try and keep it lined up. Boy, it's like all over the place. Without any kind of lights for reference, it's very difficult. Alright, here we go. We got this. We're going to do this. Ooh. Well, we did it. It's like I said, it's not the prettiest landing. It probably wouldn't be. Woo! Oh my goodness. I can't believe we did that. Wow. Well, never a dull moment. Never a dull moment here. I'm just going to turn off here because the airport technically is kind of back this way, I think. We could just end it right here.
Uniform Tango Romeo Alpha traffic Kenmore 237
just in case anybody
clear
else
of the
is
runway.
inbound. Not that I expect anybody to be, but there we are. Ta-da! Landing in the mountains. No runway lights whatsoever. True seat of the pants shenanigans. Oh, we got a fourth like. Somebody hit the like button. Didn't say boo. Well, that was different. That might be the understatement of the year, Mick. I tell you, if I hadn't been able to see the runway on here and try to manage it on here, you could see the edge of it right there. If I could have seen it on here, I think we would have been screwed. But yeah, it was a judgment call on my part. I think that pattern entry was just too crazy. So anyway, let's go ahead and shut the engines down here. We'll get ready to wrap this up right now. Woo! That was insane. That might be a clip. I might have to make a short out of that. I might have to do that. That might be a good one. I have to think about that. Anyway, that is going to be it. I will see you all in 3 hours. Flying from Syracuse to Pittsburgh in the King Air 350i. Should be a good flight. Do join us for that. And should be a good one. So anyway, I will see you all in 3 hours. Bye.